Good evening. I'm Natalia Snelling. Yes, that's me. And let's see, let me get my stuff situated here. I'm 34 years old. I'm married, and I have two boys, ages 7 and 3, and another boy on the way, due in June. So today I want to talk to you about my journey through depression. So I grew up in a home that wasn't a Christian home, alcoholic father, just very broken and everything. I struggled with depression through my teenage years, my early 20s. It was hard. Even I came to know Jesus as my Lord and Savior when I was 15 years old, and it was like a new hope was given into my life. And that was against all of my parents' and family's wishes. So I did struggle with depression at times, but tonight, I actually want to talk to you about how things changed when I became a mom. So I was pregnant with my first, and I struggled with a little bit of depression in the beginning of the pregnancy. And, I was told this is normal, you go through this fluctuation and hormones and all these things. So I said, okay, it's fine, everything's okay. And it actually did get better. So I was like, okay, it was just the beginning. Everything is going to be okay. Well, things changed after I had him. I love my baby boy, Lucas. I was so in love with my baby. So it wasn't the kind of depression where mom doesn't want to be around their baby or that kind of a thing. So it was different for me. I had a lot of anxiety. I was afraid of being away from my baby. I didn't want to socialize. I'm always been an outgoing person, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had a large group of, friends at the time, and I would cancel on play dates, cancel on a kid's birthday party, all these things. Why? Because it was so overwhelming to me. I cried a lot, and I always felt kind of like unsettled, like any bad thing that could happen in my head is what I thought of constantly throughout the day. So a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. And I suffered through it. When my first son was about 1 year old, I started coming to Redemption Church. Mind you, it was only a group of like 6 people at the time. But they were really sweet people. And so I started to get to know them and open up to them about my struggle with depression. It was so scary for me to be vulnerable and actually say, hey, this is a problem. I struggle with this. So they accepted me, just like Daniel said, no matter where you are in life, they kind of were there for me. And I always kind of felt weird, like, but why? I'm so messed up. I'm so like, there's something wrong with me. I can't be like a happy person. Why do they want to know more about me? Why do they even care, right? And in the beginning, it was hard for me. I think our first meeting, there was a little potluck that they invited me to, and I canceled at the very last minute, and I was just crying the whole day because I couldn't think. It was just too overwhelming to me to go and meet new people and kind of just be vulnerable. So thankfully, that did get better, and I found some comfort in these people that were praying for me and loved me no matter what. So I did survive that time. I took up the hobby of sewing, and that helped me also. And then come 4.5 years later, I had my second child, Noah. And so at this point, I had well-established relationships with my church family. They knew about my problems, that I was prone to depression. And so everybody had kind of like that support system, which is so important when you're going through this. I know it's hard to just tell people I'm not okay, but it's important to surround yourself with the people that say, it's okay to not be okay. I'm still here for you. So there was never any shaming or any like, can't you just think positively and it'll go away? I mean, have you heard that before? Just think good things, right? And you're making yourself depressed, right? I had heard a lot of things like that. So they didn't do that, which was very comforting to me. So the thing about postpartum depression is that it can hit any time within that first year. So because of my history with depression, I knew I was just prone to it. I was okay for the first 4 months. I was like, wow, maybe I skipped it this time. But around month 4, things started to go downhill. I started not feeling like myself again. And in this instance, it was actually anger that was the main symptom for me. I would get angry very quickly. I was very short with my children and just irritated a lot. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was just always kind of mad, and I didn't understand why at first. I was like, is this depression? Like, is it? And it was. I would say that my lowest point was around that time, about 4 or 5 months in. I remember being at home with my kids. My husband was working, and he said that he was going to be home around 5:30. And so it was about 4:45 at the time, and I was like, okay. I was feeling horrible. I was like wanting to die. I felt like, why? My kids don't deserve a mother like me. I'm just always depressed. Who wants a depressed mother? I'm going to mess up my children. I'm going to scar them for life. I just don't want to be here anymore. So I do remember thinking to myself, well, if I go to my bathroom now and I die, I wasn't planning how I was going to do it, but in my head, this was like what I was envisioning. If I die, okay, the kids, that'll be like 30 minutes. The kids will be okay before my husband gets home. They'll by themselves. So I was already planning like how I was going to die, and it was going to be okay, and I was going to help my children. In my mind, when you're in that moment, all these lies become so true to you, and you feel like, yeah, this is the right thing. I'm going to relieve them of this burden that I am. And at that point, I just knew that wasn't okay, that those thoughts were not normal thoughts. And I just reached out to God, and I said, help me, because I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do. So I did talk to my husband about it, and of course it scared him, you know. I talked to my friends about it, and I told them, look, it's happening again, and it's really bad. So I did counsel with my pastor, and I started going through therapy, which was very helpful. I had gone through therapy once before, but it was very short term. This time, I was very committed to wanting to make this work because it was affecting not just me, but my kids, you know, and my husband. Everybody around me was being affected. And I saw that for the first time, very, very real. So I started going to counseling, and that helped so much. I was able to, you know, God walked me through a lot of things that I still had to work on and healing that I still needed from my childhood and just struggles. So I was able to walk through that. But I knew that even though I did feel better, I knew that I needed something more, something else was wrong. And, you know, I always had my friends praying for me and being there for me and, you know, a friend coming to help. I'll take the kids for a walk. You go take a shower, go take a nap, you know, and because when you're depressed, you tend to isolate yourself. Is that right? I mean, you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want anybody around you. And so that was hard for me to fight that off, that feeling of like, ugh, I don't really want you to come over, you know? But I did it because I knew that that's what I had to do, because I was thinking of it not just for me, but for my family. So at this point, after a lot of prayer, we decided that the best thing for me was to try medication, which I know a lot of people, especially in Christianity, were like, medication, but you have God. Can't God heal you of that? Of course he can. Absolutely, but just like a diabetic needs insulin, or someone that has cancer goes to chemotherapy, these are all things that God can use to also help. So it took me a lot to actually come to that decision because I didn't want to the first time around. I was like, I'm not taking any medication. I don't need that. You know, a lot of pride in it too. But God just kept on saying, no, this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, okay. So we did decide that was the best thing for me. So I went ahead and started medication, and I will say that it made such a difference for me. It actually worked, and I'm not saying it's like a magic pill and your problems are all gone. Absolutely not, but it's not, you know, I jokingly call them my happy pills, but it's not that. It's just, you know, sometimes depression can be a spiritual warfare, but a lot of times it's also a physical one where there is a physical problem, you know, chemical imbalance or something that's wrong. And there's no shame in that. just like I said, a diabetic needs insulin. You don't tell them, well, you have God, you can get healed, right? You don't need insulin for what? So that helped me to see that and see how it was beneficial to me. So I just want to let you know that there is hope in God. He used all these things, community, church family, friends, counseling, medication, all these things to help me walk through this. And knowing that he's in control gives me hope. And my journey's not over yet. I'm soon to become a mother of 3. I don't know what that's going to be like. But God is in control, and he is good. And I know that I'll go through many other battles in life, but he is in control, and giving my life over to him is comforting, knowing that he's got me in his hands. I also wanted to finish off here with a few verses in 2 Corinthians 12, which is Paul, the Apostle Paul, talking about a thorn in his flesh. So I just wanted to say that God has allowed this in my life, and I feel like it's for a reason. And, a lot of times it's like, why God? Why me? Why do I have to be the messed up one? Why do I have to feel like this? But here I am. I'm talking to you about it, right? And if he can help me, he can help you too. So in 2 Corinthians, it says here, he's pleading. He says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, which I had done many times. God, why? Can't you just heal me? Can't you just take this away? But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in my weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Thank you.